And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we move to the next panel discussion of the day. The topic which we have is opportunities and challenges in building a retail business. And would like to welcome all our eminent panelists of this discussion. Inviting Shri Rupam Asthana, the Managing Director and CEO, Liberty General Insurance Company Limited. And now inviting Shri Pankaj Arora, the Managing Director and CEO of Raheja QBE General Insurance Company Limited. Shri Nilesh Garg, the Managing Director and CEO, Tata AIG General Insurance Company Limited. And next esteemed panelist is Shri Himanshu Walia, Joint ED, Star Health and Allied Insurance Company Limited. Also joining us as esteemed panelist of the session, Shri Sushil Jhangiani, the Senior Executive Coach, sharing customer perspective. And the session, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be moderated by Shri Kapil Mehta, Director IBAI and the CEO of Secure Now Insurance Brokers. So welcome again to the panelists of the session, and with that I would like to hand over to Shri Kapil Mehta, the moderator for the proceedings of the session.
Hello everybody, a very warm welcome to the IBAI's annual conference. I'm delighted that you're all here today. I'm the moderator, Kapil Mehta, I'm the moderator for the session. The topic we have today for the next 45 minutes is opportunities and challenges in building a retail business. During the next 45 minutes, we will of course take the policyholder's perspective, but we also have many questions about how to build a retail business, how brokers like us should actually be scaling up and thinking about this business. And I'm delighted that we have such an excellent set of panelists to help us through this time. The panelists need no introduction, but I'll quickly sort of list them out. We have Nilesh Garg, Managing Director of Tata AIG, known to all of you. Mr. Rupam Asthana from Liberty Insurance. Welcome, Mr. Asthana. We have Pankaj Arora from Raheja QBE. Pankaj, welcome to this panel. Himanshu Walia is the Joint Executive Director for Star Health, responsible for both retail and corporate business. Himanshu, we are delighted to have you here with us. And we have Mr. Sushil Jhangiani. Mr. Sushil Jhangiani is an executive coach based out of Delhi and a part-time professor at the IIM Ahmedabad. And he is here to provide us with the customer's voice. Right. So this is sort of a brief introduction. And the first question which I actually have is for you, Sushil. Welcome to this insurance discussion. I'm not sure whether you've been on insurance panels before, but the question I had for you is to share a little bit with us about the experiences you've had in health insurance. I know you've gone through a cycle of buying, porting, claiming and ombudsman, and it would be very useful if you share your experiences, and then we'll build off that in the rest of the conversation. Sushil, over to you.
Thanks Kapil. No, I haven't been in a panel before, and this is the first time, so I'm actually looking forward to being a part of this panel. So just to give you a background of my experience, I actually started off by taking health insurance for my entire family back in 2013. The family is myself, my wife, and we have 2 children who were at that time minors. In 2019, when the policy came up for renewal, I was called by somebody, a sales agent from another insurance company, and he said, "Look, your policy is coming up for porting and for renewal. Why don't you port into our company? And we have a much better policy." And he took me through the whole policy, and it seemed to be a much better deal. So I said, "Fine." But I said, you have to be aware that, I have pre-existing illnesses, which I have already told to the previous company, and I have, sat out their waiting period for exclusion. So I want that to be counted. I don't want to restart again from square one. And he said, no, absolutely no problem. And the way insurance works is that just continues over here, and, you will continue over here. And it's a bit like a car's no claim bonus, it will go from one to the other. You don't have to bother about that. So I said, fine. And I said, but I want this in writing. So he even sent it to me on an email saying that, nothing will happen. And he sent me a link and he said, please pay. And I paid, and, I got my policy, and I was rather pleased that the whole process was so simple and so easy. And 2 or 3 months later, I happened to go to my doctor for a visit, like I do, every 6 months or so. And I go to the gym, and I was having some, issues in the gym. And he said, I want to do an angiograph. So I said, okay. So I landed up at the hospital the next day to do an angiograph. And, I told my wife, I said, look, tell that hospital that, they can call the third party, whoever it is, and, it'll all get sorted out. Later on, when I went through the whole process and I came out and I was back to my senses in the evening, my wife said, no, the claim got rejected, so I just gave them my credit card and we paid. So I said, fine. So we came back home, and then I called up the insurance company and they said, send us your claim. So I sent them all the claim details and they rejected it, saying that you have not told us that you had previous health issues. So I wrote back to them saying, but I had these issues, and I had told my previous company about them. And even when your guys sold me this policy 3 months ago, I told him about these issues. And the fact of the matter is that he said it will get ported, and I have done my time on the previous company. So why am I being penalized? And they kept telling me that no, you have not. You have not told us that you have these previous illnesses, so we cannot honor your claim. So anyway, I went to the ombudsman, and as it turned out, that was the time when COVID actually broke. So it took a long time to go through the ombudsman, but it finally did come up at the ombudsman. And when it did come up, it was quite interesting, because the company said that I had said that I had declared that I had no previous illnesses, and I said no, I have never done any declaration and never signed any form. And they said, no, you haven't signed the form, but you've actually done a tele call, and we've actually recorded the call. So they played a call with one individual who purported to be me, and mumbled that, they asked a whole lot of questions about health, and he mumbled and said, that I have absolutely nothing wrong with me. So I was, of course, shocked, and I said, this is not me, and this is complete fraud. Okay. Luckily, the ombudsman might have seen something like this previously. I don't know. But the short answer is that he said, no, nothing doing, and he, prevailed on the company to pay my claim, and to also, note that I have pre-existing illnesses, and to honor this if it comes up. So that was my entire experience. Not a very good experience, I must tell you. But I think finally, thankfully, thanks to the ombudsman and thanks to help from others, couple included, it actually, got there. So yeah, so that's my story basically.
So I think, Sushil, that's actually a very good story to start with, because it shows some of the issues, but also shows that things did get resolved in the end as you followed due process. And I'd actually ask Nilesh to talk a little bit about this. Because the brokers do often feel that getting problems addressed for individuals is hard. And so your thoughts on grievances, how to manage that, what's happening, where improvements are possible, I think would be very useful.
Thanks, Kapil, and very happy to be part of the IBAI annual conference. I've been participating every year physically, so this time very happy to see all of you guys, though in a virtual format. Tata AIG has been always a very strong and trusted partner of the brokers, and the philosophy has been, to ensure there is no missell or confusion any which ways. So, Kapil, coming to the health part and retail health to be specific, I would probably step back a little bit, and grievance redressal is, to my mind, it's like a post-hospitalization event, so when everything has gone wrong, and, so there is this thing. So I would, probably take a step back and say that how can we build a ecosystem, products, processes, systems, industry, where we don't need to go to that stage. And so there, I would make a few points, and the first point is in terms of the products. IRDA, the regulator, has been doing a great job in introducing certain standardized products. So I think financial literacy in India continues to be very low, and to have standardized products with standardized coverage definitions and standardized exclusions, I think is a big plus, big step forward. Um, there is, the intention, when we, and I'm talking to all my industry colleagues, so we as an industry, I think it's very incumbent upon us when we design products, those products are should be designed to create more transparency and articulate very clearly the coverages rather than in some ways, to create ambiguity or confusion in any which, any whatsoever manner. I'll take an example of the banking industry, where sometime back, I think on the guidance of RBI, the banks have started introducing this most important terms and conditions in a very concise small box. So I think, those are the things, which as an insurance industry, we should be adopting so that the customer does not have any ambiguity, intended or unintended. The point, which Sushil had also made earlier, I think the industry is also working very hard with a lot of associations and IID and the council to ensure we have standardized definitions and standardized definitions of basic illnesses, standard treatment protocols. I think a lot of these things, especially in health, will go a very, very long way. The second aspect, I would touch briefly, and this is, where the broking community, I think, comes into play very strongly, is the awareness and the knowledge levels of the distribution. So how much is the insurance industry spending time, money, effort in terms of educating, and developing the knowledge and awareness levels of the broking community, so that when brokers, go and have conversations, on the retail side, with lot of customers, so that, there is no confusion between what the customer has bought and finally what the company has sold. So I think, distribution in terms of building quality distribution plays a great role. And that's where I feel brokers, generally speaking, we feel the quality of sales, from all the brokers has been very high. And I would request and urge all of you guys, in this forum, that again, investing in the training and knowledge enhancement of your employees is like something, which is, very, very important. The third aspect, couple is, basically, again, the work which as an industry we need to do in terms of the process simplification. And I think one of the key ways, how we can do that is through technology and digitization. I mean, lots been said about that, but the fact is, the more we get the customer to provide the primary information, the chances of an error or delays or any other mistake go down. Because a lot of times, I have seen that the workflow fails because there are multiple hands off. And the more, we are, there is a direct communication with the customer, and the customer is filling up the information. And like what Sushil said, so there is nobody else, who is kind of taking the call or the video call, on the customer's behalf. I think that's something, which is very important. The more we digitize the processes, the more we simplify the processes, I think that's going to be very important. And last but not the least, the question that you asked, I mean, finally, if all of this fails, I think we come to the grievance redressal mechanism. IRDA again has taken a very important step called IGMS. I think this is an integrated grievance management system, which is real-time integrated with all the insurance companies. I think it's a big step forward in terms of resolving all the customers' issues in a time-bound manner. And in case, the customer still does not feel satisfied, then, the customer, can approach, the ombudsman. But I think, overall, health generally we have seen as an industry, the customer is quite aware, and hence the industry is maturing. And a lot of the insurance companies, and I can talk about our company and also a lot of my peers, that the companies have been investing big time in better customer service, and whether the customer service through social media channels, I mean, basically an omni-channel customer service in a real-time manner. And that, I think, clearly I can see the industry moving forward in a positive way. Kapil.
Nilesh, so I wanted to ask you one follow-up question before I move on. And I'm sort of going back to the point you made around that brokers have to really understand the policy terms and conditions and communicate it well. And there's a whole buying process which is important. One of the things brokers feel often is a lack of enough data. So a lot of good information is available in public disclosures. For example, we know the loss ratio in a health insurance product, so we know some of the sort of claim settlement times across different lines of businesses and so on. But we struggle to get information for, if we just stick to the example of health insurance for a second, loss ratios by product, or what is the reasons for the claims getting declined or claims getting closed. Some of those nuances are not easily available to us in the public domain, and I don't know how we can get there, because sometimes I see that's one area where movement has not been so fast. I don't know what you feel about the extent of information available. Quality, of course, is good.
So I would, Kapil, I would comment, there is two levels of the information. One, as you said, I think over a period of time, IRDA has been improving the quality of public disclosures, and now we are also beginning to have a lot of data coming in from IIB, which is the Insurance Information Bureau.
Yes.
So in terms of the mega trends, we are getting a lot of information. Can it be better? The answer is yes. But in terms of different companies have different products and different segments for an IRDA or IIB to put it all together to dissect it very finely sometimes is a challenge. But I would say there is today the quality of data in terms of customer complaints, escalations, the reason of complaint, the claims outstanding, lot of aging of that. I think a lot of that data is available, and I think I would request everybody to study the yearbooks of the General Insurance Council as well as IRDA and the public disclosures of all the companies to analyze some of that. The second is a little bit what you said is that as a broker's case has been let's say rejected, or it's been a conditional approval underwriting. And that's something, we as a company, clearly follow the practice, that we share all the information, with the brokers who work with us. And I would like to believe, that most of the industry also does that, in terms of creating the transparency, with the brokers. I mean, beyond, there could be issues of privacy, confidentiality, to share that data in the public domain, for specific customers. But again, if IBAI can take some initiative, I'm very happy to support that initiative in terms of getting more transparency in terms of the mega trends.
Nilesh, thanks very much. We'll come back to you a little later. I'll move now to Mr. Asthana. First of all, thank you for doing this call, while you were traveling and in Calcutta, I believe. The discussions we've had so far is around health insurance, but I know that as a broker, when we do the analysis of our own portfolio, what we invariably find is we look at the other lines of business. It could be, for example, home, liability, and so many other different lines, including motor to some extent. And we always say that we have to increase the share of this somehow, but we haven't. I'm talking of my own example, have not been that successful in doing that. So what I think we would really love to hear from you is how you think of the opportunity in areas outside of health insurance, and what brokers can do more in that area, and what needs to happen to really scale that part of the business up.
So first of all, Kapil, thank you for having me on this panel. It's an absolute pleasure to be able to, even though it's virtual, talk to our friends in the broking community, and we at Liberty General Insurance treasure our relationships with the broking community. So Kapil, while you have excluded health, but if I was to kind of generalize in terms of retail and say everything other than motor, actually I would, because as you rightly kind of hinted, that even in motor, if I was to just look at percentage of all vehicles on the road that are insured, it probably would just cross 50%. So while there's enough and more scope in motor, but I'll probably move on to some of the other lines of business, and also try and relate it to how I think that the broking community can kind of increase their piece of the pie or share of their business from other lines of business. So clearly there are some which are fairly deeply underpenetrated. So I would for example talk about personal accident. I think personal accident as a product is something which people in general relate to, simply because of the increasing incidence of accidents and injuries that are clearly visible and seen across nursing homes and hospitals throughout the country. So that's clearly one line of business. The other, which we keep talking about, is of course home insurance. Now let me try and kind of address this in line with the comment that you made, is that brokers at times either are not able to or don't have the inclination to get into these lines of business. The simple fact being that these are small ticket businesses, and therefore the effort required is large. And my kind of advice over there would be to look at these products in the ecosystems in which the brokers operate in. Clearly, when they're working on their main lines of business, they are either dealing with corporates or with SMEs, and there is an ecosystem which goes beyond the insurance purchase department or the finance department or the procurement department that you deal with. And I think this is an area where the brokers need to push that little bit extra and try and see, how they can actually move on from a corporate or a commercial product now to move to the larger ecosystem. And when I talk of ecosystem, the ecosystem extends beyond employees. So be those the suppliers to the corporates that you deal with, or the buyers and the shopkeepers that are actually stocking and selling your products. I think the ecosystem is very large. And therefore, there needs to be a more exploratory work that needs to get done over there, and look at products like personal accident, look at products like the shopkeepers' small packages, look at products like home insurance, and try and target them at the parts of the ecosystem which would be more inclined to purchase those products. So I clearly think that there is more work that needs to be done within the distribution community, and of course the insurance companies have to be deep partners with the distribution community in actually identifying those consumer segments, making sure that they have the right products for those, and helping and assisting the broking community in getting these products penetrated into those segments. So I think this is really something which has to be done in a coordinated manner with the insurance companies and the broking community. And I think this is where the insurance companies need to invest a little bit more. And distribution becomes important, because at the end of the day, the broking community has limitations in terms of their physical presence across the country. And the insurance companies and the broking community have to work in tandem to go after and identify those segments and work on those and move on from there. The other reason, the way I think that the insurance companies and broking community can work better is by actually, giving some levels of authority to the brokers and the intermediaries in terms of their ability to underwrite. One of the reasons why productivity on these products is low is because, quite often, they are merely acting as, collectors of proposal. And I think it has to go beyond that. So there needs to be a change in the way the insurance companies and the broking communities kind of come together, coordinate, work together, and identify those segments and go after them. But clearly, there is enough and more scope for us to do a lot more business, be that in terms of personal accident, be that in terms of small shopkeeper packages, be that in terms of small home packages, even in motor. There continue to be substantial number of vehicles on the road which remain underinsured or uninsured, and I think these are areas where the broking community, the distribution community, and the insurance companies need to relook at and rework on their models from a going to market point of view. So enough and more scope to do business. We both need to sit at the table and work it out in terms of the process that needs to be kind of made available to the community in general to be able to go and penetrate further and work together in identification of the right consumer segments which can be gone after. So more work to be done here, Kapil. I think that's the exciting part of our industry is the fact that there is so much more to be done, and I think this is where the insurance community and the broking community has to come together and make it happen.
No, that's great. I have certainly one follow-up question. I may ask two, but I'll ask this one for sure right now, because I think what you said about can brokers get underwriting authority, let me just phrase that, is something we've often thought about and discussed within the broking community. And in fact, we have gone one step further and said, can we get claim settlement authority for claims of a certain kind under the certain level, so we can at least take away that sort of issue. Now, we want it. Both the things. You said underwriting authority, I've added claim authority to that. So what do you think are the roadblocks to making that happen? It could be something, it could be sort of some issue in us as brokers. It could be something in the products. It could be something in the way the insurers think. I'm not able to put my finger on it.
So Kapil, if I was to be very direct with you and answer the question very directly, it is a lack of trust. Let me be very upfront and clear here. Is the fact that I think there is a lack of trust in both directions, and we need to break that, because if we don't break that lack of trust, we will continue to wallow in the situation we are in and not being able to progress and grow the industry and penetrate further. And we need to come together and put together a memorandum of understanding and an agenda on how this can be made available, and actually we can work on it. And it cannot be a situation where either party says that this is at nil liability to us. And I think that is where we will need to come together and have an understanding. And this actually can happen better if we have more well capitalized, well financed brokers with deep commitment to the market and long-term commitment to the market, with promoters who are invested in the business deeply and look at it as a long-term business, just as like insurance companies do. So I think there is some way to go there as far as getting to it. But I think if we have to grow the industry and we have to go to segments which remain underpenetrated, then this is probably the best way to go. And I would agree with you that if we have to go all the way from in terms of giving a part of the pen to the broker, then why not on the claim side? So I would say even policy issues. So I think there are a substantial portion of the work that the insurance companies do, which can actually tomorrow be given to the brokers, and I think that's a win-win situation for both of us.
Yes. No, that's wonderful, and I completely understand what you're saying. I hope you're mentally prepared that many of the deeply committed broker members may approach you to sort of get this pen for both underwriting. You use the word underwriting, but pen also for issuing the claims, and of course with the financials, with implications on them also. I totally understand.
Very happy, Kapil, absolutely delighted and open. We are always open. I think we are looking at more opportunities to strengthen our relationships in a way which works for both. And I think that is something which I would like to underline, that it has to be win-win. It has to be win-win for the consumer, for the broker, and for the insurance company. And as long as we can find that path to get to the consumer and actually do business, then why not?
Fantastic. Thank you, Mr. Asthana. I'll move to Himanshu now. Himanshu Walia, from Executive Director at Star Health. Himanshu, first of all, thank you for accepting and coming on this panel at relatively short notice. And I think most broker members know you, and they know that Star has built such a fabulous business on both the retail and the commercial side. All the discussions we've had so far have been around to some extent policyholder orientation. Of course, we've discussed some broker issues as well, but I really want to understand from you, and I think the brokers would also like to, all of us would like to know, that when we think of building a retail business, how should we be thinking of building and scaling that business? And this question is coming from the mindset that a large number of brokers actually have commercial businesses with large clients. Of course, there are brokers who are very large in the retail space, but I think there are not enough of us over there. So your thoughts on that would be very valuable. You're on mute.
Thanks a lot, Kapil, for giving me an opportunity to be in this webinar today. It's indeed a pleasure to be amongst all of you and share my thoughts. I'll focus on the exciting piece of retail health in my address today. So, very well pointed out by you that there are not many broking houses which are, doing exceedingly well on the retail front. So, distribution, as you know, is the key for our industry, and no better channel than broking to manage it. The kind of experience and the skill set that we have in the broking fraternity is unmatchable. And there was a time when group health formed majority of the chunk of the broking business, which it still is. But over time, you guys have managed to get lion's share in other lines of businesses like property, marine, liability, etc. I think retail health is the next area which I feel is a low-hanging fruit, and all of you should be focusing on this particular piece. I'm sure all of you would be keeping track of what's happening in the retail health space over the last couple of years. So, retail health insurance is growing at a much faster rate than other lines of businesses, and the ongoing pandemic has actually created a lot of awareness about retail health insurance, and because of that, we are seeing heightened demand in the retail health insurance space, and this is likely to continue, for many years to come. So it makes a very, very strong proposition for all of you to look at retail health business in a focused manner. Given the fact that you guys, give insurance solutions to corporates on an enterprise level, but when it comes to personal insurance requirements of their employees, they look for somebody who can guide them in taking the right decision with respect to their individual insurance needs. So that is why, in the beginning, I used the word low-hanging fruit, because the kind of large customer base that you guys have is simply unbelievable. Even if we look at 5 to 10% sort of a conversion, it makes a strong business case, which can get you some serious business volumes. And, the kind of investments that you guys are doing on the technology front, that gives me a belief that retail health opportunity is something that is knocking at your door. All of you have to do is to integrate your system with that of the corporates. And there has to be a constant nudging and reminders to the employee base of various corporates to have better conversions. Another way of bringing these employees to the retail fold is by offering them bite-sized products like PA, top-up covers, maybe a hospital cash, etc. And once they are introduced to the concept of insurance, you can look at cross-selling mainstream products at a later stage. And another very important channel which I believe is going to be a game changer is point of sale. POS is something that is that is going to be the future to set up retail business in tier 2, tier 3 and rural markets. We have seen quite a few brokers already making inroads into various parts of the country and scaling up their retail business volumes through this channel. I am personally a very big fan of POS model because it is purely a variable model with a very, very low fixed cost. And apart from this, what we've also seen is that distance marketing by way of telecalling is a proven successful model. A lot of retail-oriented brokers have set up in-house telesales, and it is a faster way to build your retail business. Given the fact that work from home has become a new norm, this model is gaining a lot of popularity as one of the major fixed costs, which is the rental, has drastically reduced, which further makes this model even more lucrative. And see, what is interesting about retail health insurance piece is that once a customer is onboarded, there is a lot of stickiness, and the customer tends to continue with you for lifelong. What we've witnessed over the last 14 years of our existence in this business is that around 90% of the consumers come back to us. So with that sort of retention rate, it makes a steady revenue stream for your organization, for any broking organization for that matter. Another pertinent point that cannot be overlooked is increase in the premium year on year due to change in the age slab and medical inflation. Also, we've seen that as much as 20-25% of the customers at the time of renewing, they opt for higher sum insureds, which eventually enhances the business volumes for the brokers. To sum up, it is evident that retail health is the sweetest spot today, but in terms of opportunity size and profitable growth, which can help both insurers and the broking community to achieve greater heights in coming years, we at Star Health look forward to working with you very closely and assure you of best of the support possible to help us achieve these objectives together. Thanks a lot, Kapil.
Himanshu, thanks. I have a follow-up question for you also. And one of the concerns we have, brokers have, is that when you're doing commercial business, then when we balance off the cost of acquisition versus the revenue we earn, you by and large break even in the first year. Like when you acquire a business, you make an income out of it. I'm taking a broker standpoint. On the retail business, that is sometimes not true for distribution. It may be true for an insurer, but what we find is that the cost of acquisition, the effort we have to put in versus what we may end up earning may take a little bit longer to maybe take 2, 3, 4 years to actually break even. So that is one of the concerns we have. There's a second concern, I'll just sort of lay that out also, which is that this is not true for Star Health because you just focused on health insurance. But what happens with multi-line insurers is that we worry that in a corporate case, we have a control on the client, a very strong control on the client. Whereas in individual cases, our control on the client may be a little weaker. And so you may have situations of the insurer directly building a rapport and relationship with the client and sort of cross-selling, bypassing the broker. Now, that is not my main question to you. That question is reserved for Pankaj a little later. But these are two sort of concerns that we have. Your thoughts?
Yeah. So Kapil, I completely agree and understand what you say. The gestation period in the retail piece is little longer, and it may take about 2 years to about 2.5 years to break even. But given the fact that the opportunity which is ahead of us, it's such a large opportunity, and I don't think that we can afford to miss that and ride on the wave which is currently there. It is a matter of making a choice whether you want to stick to your the main line of business, which is commercial, or you want to jump in and see and ride on the wave and be a successful retail-oriented broker as well. To sum up, I would say that yes, the gestation period is slightly higher, but given the heightened demand which is currently there, I'm sure this gestation period from 2.5 years can be brought down to about a year and a half. But it makes sense to build a strong retail business book.
Thanks, Himanshu. Thanks very much. And I'll move to Pankaj. Pankaj, thank you for coming on this panel. The question I have, I'm sort of basing my question on the way Raheja QB itself has built its business, which at least in the early days was focused on liability. Of course, now it is much wider than that. We do know you into property and to health and all that. But my question, from broker standpoint, the question we always ask ourselves is, how do we orient ourselves? Should we be generalists? Should we focus on a certain market segment? Should we focus on a certain product segment? And it would be very nice if you could sort of share your experiences, of course, from an insurance standpoint, but also, we can draw learnings from that as a broker, what we have to do. And the sort of related question I have, and I'll put all of those together, then you can see how best to answer it, is there is a tension between the brokers and insurers. At the one hand, brokers for some segments are very important to insurers, but at the other hand, there's also a lack of trust, like Mr. Asthana pointed out. And in our mindsets, we often worry about things like this, that will we be sidestepped? Will we lose control over the client? And so it'll be very nice to understand how insurers think about own distribution versus third-party distribution, because I know you have experience in both. So I'll hand over to you, Pankaj.
Thank you so much, Kapil. I think first of all, thank you, and pleasure to be a part of this forum. and address all our broker friends. I have been to that side of the table as well. So, it's the same industry. So Kapil, to address your first question, I would say it's at Raheja QBE, as you rightly said, our first 9 years were building the niche segment, which was liability, which was QBE's strength. And 2 years back, the promoters decided to diversify and build across multi-line, multi-product kind of business, and move away from a specialist kind of piece and take that as a base to build other lines of business as well. Now, if I translate it into a broking entity, I would say again, so this was Raheja QBE's strategy. But if you look at other companies' strategy, it could be different. Somebody came with an approach of saying we would start business with 10 locations and go to 25 and go to 40. And some companies came with saying I'll start with 50, go to 100, and so different promoters have different strategy, different risk appetite, different capital. So basis that, if I translate into our broking fraternity, I would say depends on what your inherent strength is, right? So let's say as a broker, I understand that my inherent strength is that I have a corporate clients, which are my clients, which I have been servicing for years before broking or in the broking. Now, it's always good to diversify in this business because insurance is all about diversification. So as Himanshu also mentioned, it would be good to move to other lines of businesses as well, whether it is auto, whether it is health, whether it is SME. I would say our initial focus from a broking entity while starting up should be the speciality that you bring to the table, the value add that you do to the client. You would be viewed more seriously and respectfully by the insurer as well, because you'll be adding value to the client as well as giving the right information to the insurer and bridging that gap. And as you build it, there is a cash register that needs to keep ticking in. And that cash register can be some other line of business, right? So let's say as a broker, my strength is auto, right? So I diversify into auto. I do private car. I start doing two-wheeler. And then I realize health is another segment which I don't understand, which I've not done much. The way to go forward is build those expertise, do those training programs, ask insurers to train you and your employees. Insurers will be more than happy to give that training, to embark that training, whether it's digitally, whether it's face-to-face, and work in tandem, initially handhold till the broker reach certain extent. So that is another diversification that you should look at. And with personal lines, with retail, the way it is growing, my humble submission and my advice would be that yes, every broker should look at that diversification, whether it is through POS model, point of sale, whether it's through affinity model from your own corporate clients, or whether it is through your other retail channels, which are like motor as a line of business to health. Coming to so this is as far as product goes, Kapil. Also talking about geography. Now there are brokers who are city specific. There are brokers who find their strength in a particular state, and there are brokers who are present across country with teams. As you build your business, there comes a stage when you would want to diversify from a geography point of view as well. Again, every geography offers different opportunity, right? Somewhere X insurance company would be interested, somewhere a Y insurance company would be interested. And as a broker, since you can work with all the insurance company, you will definitely find multiple takers for every geography, right? And again, I would say, one thing which I would, so when I started my insurance career and, retail started building up in 2003, 5, 7, there was a thought that people started saying, boss, this has turned into a commodity business. This is a FMCG business, retail. The actual knowledge of insurance, which is property, engineering, liability, is going down and people are treating it as a commodity. I would say when we are treating it as a commodity and now there is an opportunity within commodity to multiple, bisect it, why not learn those commodities as well? So what our friend Mr. Sushil faced here in terms of mis-selling or or misinformation, or maybe the intermediary was not well informed. If you can learn those products and those processes as a distributor, it makes life easy for you, customer, as well as the insurance company. And I can safely say the upside to cross-sell and to diversify is huge. There's an investment, for sure, an investment. You need to time it. You need to look at your appetite and phase it in a different way. So as I said, somebody would come with 50 branches and say, I'll go all India, and somebody will start with 10 and then grow. So this is your appetite. Phase it, but do increase your appetite every year, every 2 years, and keep growing. And very honest submission, I think, on behalf of all the insurance companies there, we are backing our distributors completely, because this is an intermediate-driven business. So, we will be backing our partners very, very, very comfortably.
So Pankaj, we have about 5 minutes left. So I'm going to ask you a follow-up question, and then I'm going to ask the others on the panel the similar question. And finally, I'll end with Sushil, where I have something for him. And the question is this. This is a very broker-focused question. Currently, brokers are about 30% of the general insurance industry, depending on how you look at it. Anywhere else in the world, those numbers are upwards of 50%, 50, 60, 70%, depending on where you're looking. Now, if you think of the general insurance industry growing at 10 to 20%, depending on which period you look at, brokers have to go twice or thrice that pace to catch up. It'll take 4-5 years, still more than that, to catch up. So and I'm really looking for very honest and direct answers from the panel. What can we do? What can the brokers do to grow much faster than the industry and to reach the potential which is outlined in the numbers I just gave you? Your feedback would be very appreciated.
Sure, Kapil. I think let's look at it from two perspectives. Within this industry growth, what are the line of businesses that are growing, right? If you say health growing faster than the industry, if you say, okay, there's a penetration issue in two-wheeler and certain aspects of motor, if you say liability is growing faster than, say, engineering, first is to identify what is growing faster. B is, I would say, regulator did this wonderfully in terms of point of sale. You can, as a broker, now have multiple hands. So while you have fixed cost, there are multiple hands, which Himanshu also talked about, low cost model, which is point of sale, that you can build and increase your penetration. Having said that, control and compliance is something which every broker should look at. And while getting these point of sale on board, do some background check, work with them slowly, and then build it. You are right. You need to, as a community, need to grow at least 3 times the way industry is growing to come up to around 40, 45, 50% of the book. Having said that, I think there is a huge opportunity there. We should look at all models and line of business to grow that. Kapil.
Thanks very much, Pankaj. And I'll put the same question to Nilesh. Tell us your thoughts on how brokers, all of us, can achieve our potential.
Thanks, Kapil. And so I would, just say, that if you peel the onion one layer, that brokers have a very healthy share of what we call commercial lines, and which includes property, energy, and marine and liabilities. But I think the brokers' share in the consumer lines, the retail business, health and motor, is lower. That's my analysis. And as you mentioned very correctly earlier on, that the gestation period could be slightly longer. I feel that brokers, the point which was made earlier, I think health is something which you make the initial investment, but the funnel keeps on expanding. It's a inverse funnel, and you can keep on enjoying the dividends for the next 10, 20, 30 years. So I think, that's one of the requests which I would be having, that all the brokers, should invest in retail businesses, that motor as well as health. And within that, I think, new models, business models, should emerge, and which should essentially be founded or premised on technology. I think the world has changed, India has changed, and the way the customers buy insurance and insurers sell insurance has changed. And I would strongly suggest that while the preferred mode of commercial insurances is very different, it is still a lot of relationship, lot of personal connect and deep knowledge. But on the retail side, I would say I would strongly encourage all of you guys, to invest in technology, invest a little bit. I think the returns of that are going to be disproportionate. So that's really my advice to all of you, all of my broker friends.
Nilesh, thank you so much. And I'll put that question to Mr. Asthana. You were when you had spoken earlier, you were also very direct, and you do sort of share.
Sure, Kapil. I've always been direct, and I'll be again direct. And I'd say the broking community needs to do a few things. One is a repetition of what Nilesh and Pankaj talked about. Invest in diversification and capability build. The expectation that you're going to break even in year one is probably an unreal expectation if you expect to become large entities in the broking community. Number two, invest in building trust with the insurance companies. I think the way to go forward for the broking community is for them to really become quasi-insurers. That's the way forward. And it's only when they become quasi-insurers is when they can expect to have, market shares in excess of 50-60% of the, the insurance business. So invest in diversification, invest in capability build, invest in building trust, and don't have unreal expectations on returns, in the shorter term. And that's what I was saying earlier, is that you need deep-pocketed promoters on the broking side as well, just like we need on the insurance side. So, that's my very brief prescription, Kapil.
No, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And Himanshu, I'll put this question to you, and then my last question will be to Sushil. So I have the same thing for you, Himanshu.
Yeah, so Kapil, frankly, I'll tell you, it's just a mindset game. In this current scenario, also there are brokers going at 10%, 20%. The industry is going at 10, 12%. There are brokers which are growing at 100%, 150%, 200% on the retail side, and goes to show it is all about the mindset and the thought process, nothing else. There is enough potential in the market. It is just that we need to go and capture that market. Nothing is impossible. That's what I think. If the industry is growing at 10-12%, and the broking fraternity, if you think has to grow at maybe 35-40%, it is pretty much doable. It is happening right now as we talk. Some of the large brokers in the country today are maybe growing at 150-200%. So there are ample opportunities, as I discussed before, that there is a POS channel which is upcoming and which is thriving. Then there is telesales. A mix of channels can get you there comfortably. Not get you there exactly. Can get you much higher results than you're expecting.
Himanshu, thanks very much. We'll pull out these role models and lighthouses and make sure everybody follows them. And my last question, of course, is to Sushil. Sushil, my question to you is less about brokers, because I think maybe from your perspective, whether you're a broker or an advisor or an agent may not matter. You may not sort of distinguish that much between them. But what I want, as a buyer of insurance, what is it you expect from the person who is advising you on your insurance purchase?
I think quite simply integrity. All I expect as a buyer is that the fellow who's sitting in front of me, what he's selling me is actually what is. In my experience, what I was sold was not what is. I was sold a horse, and when I found it, I looked at it with a donkey. Okay. Whereas, in other financial products, when I buy a mutual fund, if I buy an equity mutual fund, I don't end up with a debt mutual fund. I get an equity mutual fund. I know what I'm buying. Okay. So I think that's what I would ask for. And I don't think it's such an exceptional ask. I think it's quite a reasonable ask as a customer.
It's a very modest ask. Yeah. So yeah, I guess Sushil, thanks very much. I'd like to thank all the panelists, for taking the time out. Sushil, thank you for coming and spending time with us. I think it's a wonderful discussion, and I look forward to taking many of the points you've made and building those into our own businesses Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Just,
Thank you.